It's now being recorded. And then the PowerPoint slides are going to be posted on our website under grants and contracts, where it usually is. Probably by next week. So if you guys can check the website and then keep it for your reference. We want to ask that you keep your questions in the chat for now. And then we'll try to get to it. We want you to hold your questions in terms of asking it or raising your hand for the Q&A in case it is covered in the webinar. And we're going to be only covering like common issues we've experienced last year or just new items or just kind of like high level items. So it is a responsibility of the providers to remember to read your contracts and to understand that you guys are going to be held to the standards in the contract. That includes the attachments that Boston's going to kind of go over that we put in your contract this year. Okay. Next slide. So this was a renewal this year. So 2020, there were some changes here and there to your budgets and your scope of works. I think there actually might be more changes coming in terms of the YSN project. So just be on the lookout for that. We're still waiting kind of from our team to figure out what we're going to do. And then there might be, for those of you who have a YSN contract, that there might be some additional changes. So the grant year term is from December 1 to November 30th. As usual, it's going to be monitored by us. We're going to do the financial pieces like we did last year. And then the COC team, which is led by Kat and Alma, are going to do the program piece that they do. And then they also come once a year to visit you guys and to review the HUD standards with you guys. Okay, so we do plan to release policies and procedures early in 2024. Hopefully by the end of January, we'll get that out to you guys. One of the things we wanted to let you know that will come from that is going to be, we're going to only allow one budget modification request. So providers can only submit one budget modification throughout the grant year. So from December 1 to November 30th. And then the request must be in writing at least 4 months prior to the grant end date. So it has to be submitted by August and to your specific grant and contract manager. We will still continue to do the meetings, whether that's monthly or bi-monthly, however you've had that set up with your grants and contract manager to discuss the budget. But I want to let you know that's kind of something new that's in the works. Next slide. And then just a couple of things that you guys have already been doing. We've been finalizing the contract budget, scope of work. Like I said, if you have a YSN project, that's going to be on hold. So I would ask if you still have it and you're waiting to get signed, don't sign your contract yet. And then if you've already signed it and sent it to us, we may send you a new one. So just, again, hold on that. Zoom grants, the project profile is open. Jess is going to kind of go over that in more detail, but that is open and deadline is November 30th. You cannot request reimbursements without a fully executed agreement and a notice to proceed letter. There might be some exceptions with the YSN depending on how late those contracts are going to be, but hopefully we'll get all that done and wrapped up by the end of the month. That's all I have.
Hey, Susan, can you just make sure the waiting room, if someone comes in, you let them in while I'm,
yeah.
Thank you. All right, I'm Jess Torres. I'm the program analyst. If you don't know who I am, I work with the grants team and I do part of the reimbursement section. So we're gonna go over the Zoom grants, which is the platform that we use to open up the application and incorporate all the invoices and all the supporting documentation. Currently, the program setup is open and is ready for all the submissions. We sent you an email, and if you didn't get it, please email the grants team so that we could send you the link again. That is due November 30th, 11:59 p.m. PST time, and please don't wait for the last minute because sometimes Zoom grants ends up glitching or they have an update and then you can't submit. The first invoice submission is due January 15th, 2024. And if there's no expenditures to report, just submit an invoice reporting 0, just verifying no reimbursements are needed. Some common issues we're going through for the invoice is incomplete submissions, some missing documentation. And as of July 1st, 2023, RTFH has returned incomplete invoices if there's only like a partial submission with supporting documentation, and we can't give you partial reimbursements moving forward. So we'll just return the invoice back to you, and then you'll have to resubmit once you have everything in. The lease and rental worksheets. This has been a common issue when a provider, towards like the middle of the grant year, we're looking at all the leases to make sure all the leases are there. And then another thing that's not being seen is the running tab across the board. So if you're paying for January and then February, March, all those months, you're gonna have to input it in those columns. Let's say if the client ends up moving into another unit, you're gonna have to enter them into a new line item and put an end date on that main, the first submission they entered for reimbursement. Admin costs, a lot of people are not claiming it or submitting documentation. Indirect and de minimis cost rate. This is an easy way to get money, spending money if you don't have a certain federal rate, you'll have the 10%. And so you could actually maximize using this money towards the direct cost. The match, we're also missing some uploading match as a running tab. We're going to go over it a little bit further down in the presentation on how to actually submit. Proper invoice submission. We want to make sure we prevent any payment delays. So reviewing the remaining balance before submitting is like a great tip. Submit only completed invoices. All invoices need to include an annotated and highlighted GL, expense summary, match form, supporting documents, and the indirect cost form. Let's say if you're not claiming the indirect cost, you're just going to put it the direct expense and then not claim anything past the columns. The indirect cost, if it's not claimed, just please only fill out the direct cost and then just make sure you upload it. The leasing worksheet, like we spoke before earlier, we want to make sure we have a running tab across the entire contract term. The RFRs, they're processed in the order that we receive them. So if we return it back to you and then you resubmit it, it's going to go towards the end of the pile. Supporting documentation, all supporting documentation must be labeled and organized and uploaded separately. So we're giving you a naming convention to you're going to put the expense name, if there's a store, the receipt name, and then the direct expense amount. Don't include any indirect on this so that when we're looking at it, we could cross-check it with the GL. So for example, if you're claiming it under operations and it's a receipt from Amazon, and then it's for office supplies, this is how you will enter operations, Amazon, office supplies, and the amount of the direct expense. There's two ways of indirect costs, like we spoke earlier, is the federal negotiated rates and then the minimis rate. We ask for these agreements if you have it with the federal negotiated rate to be uploaded into the Dropbox. If you haven't had an updated one, we're still waiting for it. Let us know when you're expected to get it, and then what rate you're gonna have. Yeah, let's go to the next one. And then the match requirement, we want to make sure that you only use the source indicated that's already submitted in the match letters, which we also collected in the Dropbox, and it was also submitted to the COC. So match funds can only be used on eligible COC program costs. Monthly match reporting should be submitted through the invoice, and then it should be a running tab. So let's say for the beginning, you're only going to have one line where it's going to say the December expenses, but towards the end, we should see all of them in one screenshot. This is a new thing that we're going to be starting we're going to close out FY 21. And so we're going to send out a match closeout form. This closeout form should have, we're going to request it for the December invoice. So it should be completed and uploaded in the FY 21. But moving forward, you're going to have to include this for any closeout period. You're going to have to include the COA code, the match source, staff match item, job titles, annual salary, match FTE percent from annual pay, and the cost element, which is found in the CFR code. You want to also put eligible activity and how much the total match is. If you have further questions, once we send out the email, you could always reach out to us for this. And now, Boston.
Hi, so my name is Ronnie Boston. I am one of the grants and contracts managers as well. And I'm just going to be reviewing the FY22 contract updates. Next slide. So the match commitment chart has been updated. It's basically reflecting that 25% of your match should be committed by March 1st, 50% by June 1st, and so forth. So should the subrecipient not meet match expectations, RTFH in the sole discretion reserves the right to recapture funds that will meet the match requirements as required by HUD. So RTFH also reserves the right to basically mandate a corrective action with a performance improvement plan to support you with meeting your match requirements, to ensure your match requirements are met. So your expenditure expectations, so this is also a chart that kind of gives you a breakdown of the expectations. So 25% of your budget should be expended by March 1st. 50% by June 1st, 75% by September 1st of 24, and then fully expended by the end of your contract of November 30th, 2024. So subrecipients will be required to confirm that they can meet these spend down targets or provide an alternative timeline to be evaluated and approved by RTFH. The subrecipient is expected to meet the expenditure deadline that is provided for this COCY funding. And if you are unable to meet the expenditure expectations, RTFH reserves the right to recapture the difference in funding. The general provisions, so for the non-discrimination, that had been updated, and I could read the full disclosure. As subrecipients shall not discriminate and require subcontractors not to discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, gender, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, marital status, familial status, military or veteran status, national origin, ethnicity, ancestry, age, medical condition, disability, or genetic information in a solicitation, selection, hiring, or treatment of his employees, any applicants for employment, any subcontractors, vendors, suppliers, or in the selection and or treatment or of participants or prospective participants of the facilities and services provided pursuant to this agreement. So this particular clause was updated. So we do encourage you to ensure that you look at your contract, review it, and become familiar with the updates. The trauma-informed care, all programs operated and supported by RTFH shall be a part of the trauma-informed system. And then the equity impact is also a piece that we want you to review. So currently we have been using the RSS sheets. The RSS sheets will still be utilized for your FY22 contract. So this is your budget sheet. This is the sheet that will be submitted to your grants and contract manager on a quarterly basis. This is to support you with monitoring and managing your budget, as well as us maintaining, full disclosure of your progress with your expenditures. So a link with the template will be sent out so that everyone can have a updated version of this RSS sheet. So subrecipients will include this with your RFR submission, which will be required again quarterly. Failure to provide the information may result in a reimbursement being returned to the subrecipient unpaid. So this would also fall in line with what was previously noted, that incomplete submissions will not be processed. So the grants and contracts goals is basically the subrecipient will work with RTFH's contracts and grants manager to complete periodic reviews. The reviews will take place just to ensure that progress is being made throughout the duration of the contract, and to ensure that compliance and the fiscal spending is also being adhered to. Periodic reviews will occur as frequently as necessary. So currently we do meet monthly, and if necessary, it may be more frequent or less frequent based off of the spending trends. If RTFH determines that a subrecipient has issues meeting the requirements, then we would just have to develop a plan of action to better support you with your spend down. There'll also be the annual monitoring review to ensure HUD regulations compliance. Some of you have already experienced some of the review. So we do ask for your cooperation in the event that that does occur again. So at this time, we're going to open up the floor for questions. Jess, are there questions in the chat?
I didn't see anything in the
Okay.
chat. But I did want to go over some things that we forgot. For the match, Jess kind of went over it. One of the things we forgot to mention is that for the next year, starting in December, there was going to be a new a requirement that was implemented by HUD. As you guys know, a while back, we were asking a lot of documents when we were going through the HUD audit. One of the things that came from that HUD audit is that the match needs to have a specific chart of account code. So I think when we had requested everyone to give their chart of accounts, they were giving us their code for whatever the match source was. So if you were matching HAP, you were giving me the HAP code of account. What HUD is now requiring is that the 25% match has to have a specific chart of account code for the match. So if you, whatever you name it, let's say you name it 100, when you pull that number 100, it gives you all the match sources and it totals up to the 25% amount requirement. So you guys will have to develop whatever your identifiers, however you guys do it in your financial books, your own specific chart of account code for the match for each project that you have. So that is something new that will go out in the email that Jess is going to send out with the match closeout form. That won't be required, obviously, for this December because it's too late for you guys to create that. But that will be required moving forward. And so at the end of next year, so December 2024, you will provide it will have your chart of account code specifically for that match. And when you provide your GL, it will have that specific line with that identifier that tells us what was matched and how much. I hope that makes sense.
Susan, we have one question about the match. Is there an issue that is there an issue if the match exceeds the target? I guess the committed amount, yeah.
So when we were going to the HUD audit, HUD discouraged providers from overmatching a lot, just because then it kind of opens you up, because then that becomes part of the program and that potentially can open you up to additional, they could kind of look into more things because it's then becomes part of the project. So they do discourage you from overmatching by a lot. In terms of us, not really, no. I know I appreciate it because sometimes we have providers that undermatch, so it kind of gives us that buffer. So I would maybe discourage you from overmatching by like over 50% or more, but you deal and if you meet your match within the first 3 months, great. Hey, that's fine too. It also kind of sometimes helps if you overmatch, because if you're actually under budget, we can look at what you matched and see if that's something that you can actually build directly instead. And then, we can kind of work out what you matched and then what you can bill. So that helps too. We've had providers that overmatched and then they haven't spent their money. So we ask them to look back at, hey, what did you match? Maybe there's because it has to be COC eligible items. Let's actually build directly to the project and you still hit your match. So, there's pros and cons to overmatching, I think. Hope that answered your question. Is there any other questions? Oh, I'm surprised I didn't get any questions about the new match requirement. Okay. Maybe most of you already knew about it because we try to give providers a lot of time on that because that's a big change. Okay, so here are then some of the resources that were provided. I'm not going to go into it, but it is going to be part of the PowerPoint slides. So if you need it, again, it'll be on our website and then you guys could refer to it. Some links from HUD and then from our stuff too, and then our sheets, things like that. So this will, again, all be provided on the website as part of the PowerPoint slide. And then I think the last one is our contact information. So again, you can always reach Lahela. You have our individual emails if you need to reach us directly, but we also have a grants email that all of us have access to. So that's listed here. And then the COC if you need to reach Kat and Alma about program stuff. So that's available here. Trying to look in the chat to see if there's any other questions. I don't see anything else. Okay. Then I think we're good. We ended early, I think, right? Yeah. All right. Well, then I'll give you guys 30 minutes back of your time. Thank you for coming. And if you guys have any questions, let us know. And we look forward to working with you guys again. Thank you. Bye.